What's up, friends? Mike Rule coming to you live for the Mike Check podcast. The podcast that exists to strengthen the church to make a stronger defense of the faith by biblically checking the unbiblical. Today, in the Loftus Studios, we're going to have a guest on our show, Jack DeGroot, who is recently elected Sussex County Commissioner. We're going to find out why. We're going to find out what the heck a commissioner does. We're going to find out how being a Christian affects his worldview and his responsibilities there. And we're going to look at the Word of God, or how we can be involved and what that means for us. Without any further ado, let's get it. All right, well, welcome. I am here with the one, the only Jack DeGroot. So welcome, sir, to the Mic Check.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great blessing to be here.
I am glad that you are with us. And so you and I have spent some time together kind of getting to know each other. But for the folks who are not aware of who you are and how you're serving our county, just tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing for us in the county.
Yes. So my name, as Pastor Mike mentioned, is Jack DeGroot. I'm a 25-year-old county commissioner.
Whoa.
Yeah, great blessing indeed. So to start over, I guess, born and raised right here in Sussex County all of my life in Wantage, New Jersey. Grew up on my family's dairy farm.
Nice.
So we're still a fully operational dairy farm to this day. But, on the dairy farm too, I really, learned the, value of hard work. My father instilled in me when I was very little, bottle feeding calves, growing vegetables, all, throwing hay, all that stuff. And, really used that in every aspect of my life, moving forward. And I committed really to sports and basketball. So, was a 1,000-point scorer at High Point Regional High School.
Dang. Do you have your picture on the wall somewhere, like your jersey somewhere hanging up there?
Yeah, something like that. But graduated there in 2017. Had the opportunity and great blessing to play basketball at Marywood University in Scranton.
Yep.
Played 4 years there. Graduated in 2021 with a bachelor's in math and finance.
Okay.
Love numbers so much. I went all the way up north to New Hampshire and the University of New Hampshire, where graduated this past fall with a master's in statistics.
Okay.
So was a teaching assistant up there, even an instructor for the one summer. And the biggest thing was I had the opportunity to work with Governor Sununu, the governor up there, which is how I kind of, got into that government type of role. And really, didn't want to waste a second. I knew I was coming back. I was graduating from University of New Hampshire and wanted to give it my all and give back to the community that gave so much to me. And that wasn't, not only Wantage, it was all of Sussex County.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice. And so then there was an election of some kind.
Yeah. So
you mounted a successful campaign.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
November of 2023, right? So we're in 2024. So
So believe it or not, back, oh my goodness, like a year and 2 months ago, back in January.
Where are we, March? Okay, so January, March, early 2023.
Yep, early 2023. I decided I was going to run for Sussex County Commissioner. I talked with, my family. I prayed about it. And, like I said, we knew I was graduating, coming back home in May. And so we decided to run. So it was a crazy experience. In April, I was driving back and forth, 5 hours down, 5 hours up from New Hampshire to New Jersey.
Got to know that route well.
I did. Yes, I did. But, came back in May, had, 30 days to hit the ground running, speak to people, just be a person, be authentic like we are now. Just talk it up about the county issues and what people, wanted to see. And, the June primary, that occurred and, we made it through that. And then, the big thing next was the November election.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, we stuck with the same game plan of positivity and productivity. And, we were successful in that. And, January 1st, I got sworn in.
And Shazam, now, are you like the youngest Sussex County commissioner that's ever graced the rooms of commissioning?
So believe it or not, so I did get news about this.
Okay.
So technically, because they switched the name from freeholder to commissioner, they said that I am the youngest commissioner ever in the state of New Jersey.
Whoa.
Yep, because I was elected, as a commissioner,
I
whereas
love
some
that.
of these other guys were freeholders, then commissioners. Well, now that it's commissioners,
I would take that loophole and
I'm running with it,
just
right?
Be like, yep, nope, youngest commissioner ever.
Yep. And currently, right now, yes, you're right. Yeah, I'm the youngest. I'm 25, and I think the next is actually a neighbor, Warren County. He's 35, and
Okay.
I think there's another 35, 36-year-old. But
25.
then
Good
the jump goes
Lord.
up.
I was a total moron at 25. I really was. When my wife listens to this and she's driving home from work, she's going to be like, yep. Yeah, I was just nowhere near that sort of maturity. Wasn't even a believer at that point. But to see you do that, that is absolutely remarkable. And so congratulations on all of that. And what an example you're setting, which is the real reason we wanted to sit down and talk to you. Somebody in our own county doing this, and a believer, and someone so young. And so definitely thought that'd be helpful for our listeners to be able to crawl inside the mind and motivation of Jack DeGroot for a little while. But for those who may not be aware, right? Everybody's probably not aware. Can you summarize what a commissioner does?
Yes, great question, and probably the most asked question I get all the time. What
Cool.
is it?
Happy for you. What is it you do?
Exactly. Because everyone knows, what does a mayor do? What does a congressman do? What does a legislator, in the state do?
Yep.
What does a commissioner do? Well,
Do you call each other commissioner? Like, do you have anybody that calls you Commissioner DeGroot, or is it like official?
yeah. They call, it's like, it's still surreal, and
Is it like Commissioner Gordon on Batman? Does that ever happen? No, it doesn't. No. All right.
But,
All right. I'm getting us sidetracked. Commissioner, go ahead.
So commissioner, predominantly the commissioner role is, managing the county budget. So
Okay.
what is the county budget? It runs around $122 million. And where does your money go? Well, it goes to the county roads. The county, all bridges in Sussex County are under, our budget. Goes to the county community college, the county technical school, senior services, the clerk's office, the surrogate's office, the sheriff's office. All of those services that are provided to Sussex County, that's managed through the county commissioner budget and the county budget. So that's more than half, I would say, of the responsibility of a county commissioner. That's the most important part, I would say. But then there's also the parts of overseeing your liaisons and the committees that you're assigned to.
Okay.
Having the agricultural background that I do and the financial background. I'm liaison for the tax board, the agricultural development board, the open space committee, the community college, hence, because I was, part of that academia, experience and all of that stuff. So, in those roles, you really, make what you put into it.
Yeah.
And, I'm doing all I can to, make the best of it. So.
You sound busy.
A little bit here and there, but always got time for, of course, the word and, you. So,
So do you still go home and like milk a cow every now and then? Or is that like, I imagine that must be like a refuge from some of the nonsense and some of the hectic schedule you must have with all of that you just described. Do you still get time to be on the farm? And
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you said, it is great to get back on the farm, clear my head.
Yeah.
My dad's never afraid to, put the shovel in my hand and make sure, I clean the barn.
Oh, good,
from
you're
the cow
here.
manure. Yeah. But, I'm predominantly in charge of the produce operation. That's what I do now.
Okay.
We do fall festival stuff like mums, corn stalks, pumpkins. And because I'm back now, finally, from university and college, getting into the flowers, getting into berries, that sort of thing. My bread
so
and butter.
kind of growing the family biz a little bit as well.
Yeah. Okay. And, never forgetting where I come from, right? So, my father worked really hard for, what he's done with the dairy operation and the farm in general, looking to expand that with, him and my brother.
Good deal. We definitely need good farms. We definitely need good farmers and good local politicians. So thank you for all of that. But kind of building on what you just said about where you came from, right? You are also a believer in Jesus Christ. And I was thinking that I think you're the first non-Highlands guest on the Mike Check podcast.
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty sure. I'd have to go back and look. But yeah, so if that's the case, which I think it is, congratulations. You
Thank you.
broke the mold. We know we were going to have to get out of Highlands Bible Church at some point, but you go to another local church, which is great. But tell us a little bit, if you can give like the 2 or 3 minute synopsis of how you came to faith in Christ and what that means to you.
Yes, absolutely. So the condensed version of really, my walk in faith, born in the church and, with the family, grew up, Christian Reformed, went to United Methodist, throughout my, predominant life, in, middle school, high school, then went off to college, and that was kind of the first test outside of, Sussex County and outside of the church.
Yeah.
And,
Especially you're up now in New Hampshire, right?
so first in Scranton.
Scranton, right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So I was in Scranton, found a, great church there.
Good.
But, got involved in that, college lifestyle and, did 4 years there, knew I needed to make some changes in my life. And that was my main mission going up to New Hampshire was getting surrounded by the right people, getting surrounded within the right church and committing to it. That was the biggest thing. And
New Hampshire is not, New England itself is by and large pretty liberal, right? Pretty hard to the gospel. Did you experience any of that up there, or you were able to kind of connect with the right people and get encouraged in the faith?
Well, believe it or not, I did not know this before going up there, but I found out in a Bible study that New Hampshire and Vermont share the title year after year for most atheist state. And I was like, oh my goodness, what did I get myself into? So while that sounds intimidating, for someone of, faith, it is a blessing in a sense because the, communities that you find where, Christianity is active, where people are really diving into the word, they're truly committed to their faith.
Yeah.
They're not, going to church, for a checklist. Like they're really diving into the word.
Yeah. So it's kind of the opposite of maybe what you'd find in the Bible Belt, where it's this kind of generational and a lot of nominal Christianity. If you're in a hardened environment surrounded by atheism and people that are hostile towards Christianity, you got to really know what you believe and why, and you got to mean it.
Yeah, exactly. So to wrap it all up, I would say, that time in New Hampshire was great, but tragedy actually really struck in the summer of 2022. July 2022. I had my college roommate from Scranton. He gave me a phone call. He thought he had kidney stones. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. He got diagnosed with stage 4 sarcoma.
Wow.
And 2 months later, in September 22nd, 2022.
2 months.
Yeah. So it
2
was
months from diagnosis?
Yep, he unfortunately passed away, and I was, I left for New Hampshire. I got to see him before I left, but miraculously, God works in really mysterious ways. I was coming home for a wedding, so I was going for a celebration, of my friend from high school, and on the way home, I got a phone call and said, that broke the news.
Wow. And so, what did that do to you spiritually? Like, how did that? How did that kind of play into your faith?
Yeah, just, the death of someone young, is always tragic. And, especially at the level, that the connection we had, he was really, my best friend. So you start asking the bigger questions of life, like, God, why him, not me? Why not, the elderly person who lived, 100 years? Why him when he was actually the only one to attend church with me, and I actually got to attend church with him.
Okay.
So, really, went into kind of a place of like thought and questionability. Yeah. But when you're in that place, there's only one way out of it, and that's getting back to what you know and getting back to the Word. So right away, I dove into the gospel, into, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, and, tried to dig my way out, and I did. And, from then on there, really committed myself, to the Lord and, trusting his path. And that's kind of, one of the avenues of why I, ran for commissioner, because, we have one life on this earth. And for me, I really, want to do whatever I can to serve the Lord, a lamp unto my feet, a light unto my path. God's got me on this path, and, through the highs and lows, I know he's there for me.
Yeah.
Even, at the darkest moments of my friend's death to the highest highs of winning an election, he's
Yeah.
always there and, always just trying to, spread his word.
Yeah, and two of those things, and thank you for sharing that too.
Absolutely.
It's a very powerful story. Two things that come out of that for me is one, God wastes nothing, right? God is the redeemer of things, right? Sure, your best friend passed away, right? Which is sad, and we do grieve that. Anybody would, and anybody would ask those questions that you did. But it's also the reality that God used that. As he used many, many things that seem negative to us, God uses those things to bring about the greatest good. We can even think, of course, of Christ on the cross, right?
Yeah.
Everybody looked at that and was like, evil has won. And it's like, no, actually not. It didn't win. That was my plan, and I'm going to bring the ultimate good out of that. And so we have a God that wastes nothing and that is able to do that. But the second thing I was thinking about too is one of our favorite words on the Mike Check podcast is worldview, right? Those moments force you to resolve your worldview.
Yep.
Okay, my 23-year-old best friend just died. Why? What does that mean? Why? What are we here for? How do I process this? So those moments are foundational in building our faith. It sounds like that's what happened with you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, when everything's going good, right? You're like, oh, I don't really have to contemplate rather the bigger questions of life, but something like that comes up. Yeah. Well, that's excellent, man. Maybe we can talk a little bit about some of what you do and how being a Christian kind of impacts your worldview in politics as well. I mean, you are obviously young, 25 years old, county commissioner, the youngest commissioner that we have established, right? I mean, that's out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Again,
it's something, it's surreal.
I was a moron
hearing
at 25. There are lots of other morons at 25. But do you think our society has come to expect less from our 20-somethings? And why do you think that might be? Why does that, a 25-year-old, maybe 100 years ago, that would not have been so. 25, you were probably married with 10 kids by now.
Probably, yeah.
Right? But in 2024, a 25-year-old county commissioner is like, whoa, why do you think that's going on? Any thoughts on that? Why we've come to expect less from our 20-somethings?
Yeah. I think, society has a lot to do with it. I think that, you look at, how life works, right? We're going through the school system, and now more than ever, people are pushing for college, rightfully so. It's great to be educated, but you're coming out of college, 22, 23 years old. For most, you're having some kind of debt. On top of that,
a lot of kind of debt.
Yeah. On top of that, if you
Unless
find
Uncle Joe takes care of it. Oh no, sorry. We'll take that out.
But on top of that, maybe you're lucky and you find someone you love there, right? So then you go and get married. So you have a nice big wedding, right? Well, if you're married, you want to live, by yourself or, with that person. So are you renting? Are you, buying a house?
Yeah.
And, society, you could hear it, it's money, 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 money.
Yeah.
And it's just suppressing a lot of people my age. And I feel it puts them in a box.
Just with how expensive things are in the pressure cooker of New Jersey kind of thing. Is that what you're?
Yeah, I think all across the country too.
Yeah.
I think that, people my age, they're getting, really crushed with how to have a sustainable family, how to even, afford to have a kid. It's really, really scary. And so for, all those pressures of life, your career, affording a home, satisfying your, wife or husband. I mean, you have all those things. Why would a 20-something-year-old ever think of going into government?
Do you think it works do you think it actually, that pressure and being overwhelmed kind of shuts down some 20-something-year-olds and be like, forget it, I'm just not going to really
I think so.
Try to get after it.
Yeah, I absolutely, because, they're worried about, doing good at their job. It's their first job, right? They want to make sure they, have that on their resume, that they have a great recommendation to either move up in management or move, to another company. With the job too, if you don't do a good job, you're not going to, have that job and get wealth.
and more pressure on that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, politics in general, obviously that's your realm. part when you're not on the farm.
Yeah.
What's your philosophy on Christians and politics? Obviously, you are a Christian in politics. So why did you get involved in politics as a Christian? Should Christians get involved in politics? What's kind of the way you think through that?
Yeah, I definitely think it's kind of, written in the word to get involved, be involved in your community, plant those seeds and, see them grow. In the position of government and politics, when, the position I am as a commissioner, I'm traveling all around the different communities in Sussex County, Vernon, Sparta, Wantage, Hobacon, all 24 municipalities. And every chance I get, I try to, plant that seed of, Jesus Christ in everyone.
Yeah.
And, in my walk of life, maybe I see that person again. Maybe I could water that seed and see that seed grow into something that we could, never imagine or might not. But if I at least plant that seed. Or
somebody else waters it, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
If someone, somebody else waters it and then, someone else, weeds it. And then we see, that person grow and they, end up going to church and then say that, it's a single mother and they, she goes to church and then all of a sudden she brings, her children to church.
Yep.
Those children's lives are, forever changed growing up in the church. And, generationally,
100%.
we'll never, see, what kind of an impact that little seed had.
Yeah. So it's almost like you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner DeGroot, that there is not necessarily a sacred and secular divide. Like you're a person and you're a Christian. And you're going to be a Christian whether you're on the farm or whether you're in politics or whatever. And so whatever we're called to do, we're called to be real, to be authentic, to be legit.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing at the end of the day. I told you, I was a student, I was an instructor, I'm a farmer, I'm, a commissioner, but all those things don't matter if, our Lord or God, isn't there, right?
Yeah, first and foremost, we're Christians.
Yep, first and foremost, we are all Christian.
Yeah, and I think that's, as a pastor, I see that a lot where people still think there's this imaginary divide. Like the things I do as a Christian, I go to church on Sunday, whatever, but then I get back to the real world, and then I go to work, and then I got to do all the other stuff, and that's different than my faith. And that's not the worldview that the Bible maintains. God is creator, God of all creation. He's Lord of heaven and earth, and everything is his. Earth is his, the fullness thereof, right? So we do that as well. Creation mandate's still in effect. Genesis 1, go, multiply, have dominion, go build, build things, remind people of the creator. And that's not just in one section, right? That's everywhere that God's given us opportunity, influence, and in your case, right, and mine, I guess too, right, the passion and the gifting to do these things.
Yep.
You were interested in doing it. God put that in your heart.
Yeah.
Right. In order for you to do that and glorify him in the process of that. So you would encourage Christians then to be involved politically?
I think so. Yeah. I truly believe, Christians should be involved.
I would concur.
Oh,
that wasn't a setup. What do you think do they mix? Like, do you feel like there's this, and I know you're not necessarily on the legislative side of the fence, right? But do you think there's this kind of unspoken rule where it's like, okay, you're a Christian, once you get in here, leave your Bible at the door and then, walk in and just talk about business. Does Christianity and politics mix, or what's your feeling on that?
I think there's definitely some type of, way with, that leave the Bible, at the door. Hey, you're a part of, the board, the party, this and that.
Yeah.
And sometimes, we see people forget, about where they came from, who they are, and especially that they're Christian.
Yeah.
And, I, for one, want to make sure, and that's why it's so important to get Christians involved, because they'll never forget, the unchanging, word of God, right? It's always going to stay the same. Yeah. So, that's why for me, getting Christians involved at all levels, school board, township, county, legislative, state and federal is important. It's really important.
What would you even say, how could a Christian, or how could anybody for that matter, Christian, non-Christian, get involved in politics locally? What would you say were a couple steps? Because I think I shared when we were talking in our official pre-production meeting, that's one of the things kind of on my soft bucket list is I want to be more involved politically, but to be honest with you, I'm kind of like swinging in the dark there. What does that mean? So how could somebody get more involved locally, politically?
Absolutely. So half the battle is showing up. So, I mean, even just attending your local, municipal and school board meetings and showing up and hearing what's going around, in the town and going on what's in the schools.
So for the total newbie, right, those things are open to the public. Like doors are open, like you as a citizen of whatever town can just go in, sit down and listen.
Yep. Even the commissioners meeting, I invite everyone who's second
Wow.
and fourth Wednesday, 6 o'clock, be there. But by the Open Publics Meeting Act, every meeting, county, school board, municipal, open to the public. And you're allowed to go in. You're allowed to have a public comment, depending, ranges from maybe like 2 to 5 minutes, depending on whatever board you're going in front of.
Yep.
But yeah, more than, allowed to sit in, listen, and then hear and, network and, reach out to those people on the, council and boards. Cause, I bet they're, looking for people to get involved too. And please, feel free to, utilize me, reach out to me, in any way, shape or form. If you want to get
I would
involved.
imagine, right? That's the first step, is to see what's going on, acquaint yourself with that whole world, see what's happening at the school board level, the town council level. And who knows, the Lord might use that to draw someone into actually running for office or being involved in that office and having an impact.
Yeah. Fun fact. I went to the county board meetings
Wow.
before everything. Yeah. So in January, first and foremost, sat down, made sure what was going on. Who are the, people on the board, what's going on with the county and any specific issues.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's applicable to, every level of really, government.
It's almost like you're talking about personal responsibility. And, that's just nonsense. Like, people we're Americans. We want to just not know what's going on, then complain about the government after we see it happening and not get involved in the beginning.
Got to be active, got to be involved, It's like I said, half the battle is just showing up.
Yeah. And I'm convicted on that. I definitely want to start doing that. I'll have to dig into the bowels of the websites and figure out what the meeting schedules are and where they are and stuff. I have gone to one school board meeting and did actually get to make a public comment.
There you go.
When they were talking about this nonsense in the schools where, you could have a literal child, whoever, grade school age, thinking they're going to transition to a different gender and then not informing the parents, which is like, huh? What do you mean? And so I think that's actually a thing. But yeah, so it's something we have to, that kind of thing is happening. And we have to be informed and involved about that.
Yeah. And then once we're informed too, educate others, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You and I talked a little bit just in our time before this. There's a passage in Jeremiah that I think of, and it's in Jeremiah 29. And everybody knows Jeremiah 29:11, right? I know the plans I have for you, all that stuff, which everybody likes to focus on. Jeremiah 29:11. I don't know why they don't focus on Jeremiah 29:10, which says you're going to be slaves for 70 years. I think because that doesn't look so good on a coffee mug. But anyway, hey-oh. In Jeremiah 29:5, before all that, right, parachuting into this, Israel is in exile, or they're actually being threatened of exile because of their complete rejection of God, their idolatry, their breaking of his covenant and all of that. And God warned them for hundreds of years, hey, if you reject my covenant, I'm going to reject you and you will be exiled. And lo and behold, it happens. But here's the instructions that Jeremiah gives them in Babylon. He says, build houses and live in them, plant gardens, eat their produce, find wives for yourselves, have sons and daughters, find wives for your sons, give your daughters to men in marriage, so that they may bear sons and daughters. So we're talking about multiple generations here. He says, multiply, do not decrease. Pursue the well-being of the city that I've deported you to. Pray to the Lord on its behalf, for when it thrives, you will thrive. And I don't know that many Christians think about that and apply that to where we are now, that we are spiritual exiles. Mm-hmm. Scripture calls us sojourners, right? And we are here in this, the best country on the face of the earth, right? In Sussex County, the best county on the face of the earth,
absolutely.
I might add. but we're here, and we're not here to not be involved. And what we've just been talking about with being involved locally and politically with your Christian faith and your worldview is exactly this. That's what Jeremiah says. He's like, get comfortable, like you're here.
Yeah.
Pray for the welfare of the city. When it thrives, you will thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea, the more that Christians are involved, the more that they are at work, the better society does.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're looking for. Any thoughts on that, of how that relates to politics and you in the midst of that?
Yeah, I like we said, it's really about half the battle showing up, and then showing up, getting educated, and being involved.
Yeah.
And once you're involved, you educate others.
Yeah.
So, in the realm of Christianity, it's the same exact thing. So on politics, you have, issues, going on within the county. You have to address them, find solutions for them. In Christianity, there's, temptations, there's, issues, let alone, and there's issues that, mix with government and politics, right? And you have to be strong in that faith, and you have to present those Christian solutions to, those kinds of entities in government and politics. And
and you're doing it for the benefit of the society, right?
Exactly.
I think now, with the whole Christian nationalism boogeyman out there, like people think like, well, Christians are bad for society. Like they're wanting things that are counterproductive to society. And that's just not the case at all. Again, the more that we can be involved, the more that God's worldview, God's law, right, comes to reflect on basically where we started, and hopefully we'll continue to reform some of that stuff, the better off society will do, right? We were in Bible study last night in Acts chapter 19, sons of Sceva, like, oh my gosh, that's such an amazing story. But then the riot in Ephesus, right? And the idea was that the temple of Artemis in Ephesus, right? Big business there, selling the silver trinkets, the souvenirs for the people who would come and worship this false goddess, right? And guess what happened? Everybody in Ephesus, not everybody, well, a lot of people in Ephesus started getting saved. And so business for false or idols of false statues goes way down. And so they're like, this is terrible. Like our business is in the dumper right now because so many people are getting saved and turning to this Christianity, and we're not doing any business here. But it's like, that's the idea. Like Christianity has an effect for the better of society. And we were talking with the men last night about like, what other things could, if more people got saved and more people were serious about their faith, what things in our society could we see decreasing?
Great question.
Great
question.
And it's just, I think the obvious things, abortion or the breakup of the family, maybe even violent crime and things like that. But it's for the better of society. It really
absolutely.
Is.
And I think you mentioned Acts. I was actually in the Old Testament a little bit in 1 Kings. Okay. And, looking, I mean, King Solomon's, a prime point. He, followed God's word. He made, the temple in his honor. And how was society? It was great. Everything was going good. Yeah. And then the next generation came along. Yeah. And then we saw generation after generation, these kings, these rulers go away from God. Yeah. And what happened to the society? Started collapsing.
Yeah.
Chaos.
Solomon, those foreign wives led his heart astray.
Yeah, that did happen.
1,000 wives. Right. And then, but you're right. Like his children, and it started before that. It started with David.
Yep.
Right. And his failings and his sexual failings and all of that, that was a terrible model. Now Solomon did the same thing. And now after that, you're right. Subsequent generations devolve instead of improve. And so that's probably why a guy like you is involved in politics. So we want to stop that slide. We want to stop that devolving and want to turn the tide and cause it to improve as well.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's really the list of our questions that we had. Any other final thoughts for our Mic Check listeners or anything else? Any way that we can follow you or keep track of you or get involved or cheer you on or anything like that?
Yeah. You could follow me on Facebook, Jack DeGroot, public page, follow, contact me on there. Please reach out, Pastor Mike. We could get connected if you want to get involved in any sort of level of government. Because like I said, Christians in government, in politics, it's ever so important in today's age. And I can't just, thank you enough for allowing me to, be on, the pod. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And once again, just to affirm and encourage you, like that's an eye catcher, someone who's 25 years old, young man like yourself saying, no, like I'm actually going to get involved and do something and work for the better of the county, and especially do so as a believer. That is super encouraging. And I just pray that everybody who's listening, the young men and older guys like myself, right, would take that to heart. Be like, no, you know what? I am going to get involved. I am a Christian, and I'm going to bring my faith to bear on the entire spectrum for the glory of God and for the betterment of society as well. So thank you so much. Appreciate you being on.
Yeah, thank you again. Appreciate it.
Well, I hope that you have enjoyed this episode with Jack DeGroot, talking about being a Christian, being a commissioner in Sussex County. As always, we'd love to hear from you on the Mike Check Podcast. You can contact us many, many ways. You can send me an email at mike@themikecheckpodcast.com. You can go to our website directly at themikecheckpodcast.com and fill out the Contact Us form. Please do that. We'd love to hear some feedback. As always, please like, subscribe, rate, all of that good stuff. If you'd like to know more about Highlands Bible Church, what you can do is you can come visit us on the Lord's Day. Sunday, we worship at 9:30 a.m. right here in Vernon. You can find out all of the deets on our website, highlandsbiblechurch.org. We're also on all the socials. Once again, I hope you found this helpful. And until next time, keep checking the unbiblical with the biblical, and we will see you again on The Mike Check.